She was chained for 37 days. On day 4, she heard 7 gunshots from the canyon, 1 bullet for each year she loved her husband. On day 37, when her captor unlocked the chains and laughed, he never saw her hands move. She snapped his neck like dry kindling, and for 2 seconds, just 2 seconds, she felt joy. This is the story of the giant widow of Blackstone. She could not close her legs, not from shame, not from invitation, but from iron. Iron that had eaten into her flesh for 37 days. And now, crawling across the New Mexico desert floor at dusk, she could still feel the ghost of it wrapped around her knees like cold hands pulling her down into the earth. She had stopped crying on day 10, stopped praying on day 15. On day 21, when the last of my hope died and she knew Thomas was dead, she had stopped being human, became something else, something cold and hollow and ready to kill. Frank Dalton had come for her that night. He laughed that dry, cruel laugh as he unlocked the iron braces. "Now you're mine," he said. He did not see her hands moving, did not see anything at all. She broke his neck like snapping kindling, and for 2 seconds, only 2 seconds, she had felt joy. 2 years later. Now, Catherine Brennan, 7 feet 2 inches tall, knelt by the creek washing blood from her hands. Not Frank's blood anymore. That blood had dried long ago. This was blood from a fresh wound, a gash on her forearm from climbing through barbed wire to steal food from town in the dead of night. Blackstone, the town where people called her a ghost, a curse, a giant monster. She was not a monster, but she was not human anymore either. Then hoofbeats. She froze, listened. 1 horse, 1 man, coming from the direction of town, coming down the trail that led to only one place, Brennan land. Her land. The land the Dalton family had wanted to steal for 10 years. Kate stood slowly, every muscle tensed, her fingers curled into fists. If they sent another man, she would kill him too. She would not run anymore, would not hide. But when the man appeared through the cottonwood trees, Kate hesitated. He was not a Dalton. Benjamin Hawthorne was much older than Frank Dalton had been. 52 years beard streaked with gray, hands scarred from 30 years of ranch work. He rode a dark bay horse named Steady, so-called, because the animal never spooked at anything. Not even when Kate Brennan, tall as a tree, stepped from the shadows and blocked his path. Steady stood still. So did Ben. They looked at each other across 20 feet of distance. The late afternoon sun slanted through the canopy, creating patches of light and shadow on the ground. Kate stood in darkness, Ben in light. The moment stretched taut as a bowstring. Then Ben spoke, voice low, calm, not trembling. "I am not a Dalton." Kate did not answer, only stared. Ben continued, "I bought this land, legally, from the bank 3 days ago." Legally, Kate repeated the word like an insult. They sold what they were too scared to steal. Ben nodded slowly. "I did not know about you, did not know about your husband, but I am here now, and I do not intend to leave." "Then you will die here." Kate said it simply, not a threat, just truth. Ben studied her, not with frightened eyes, not with greedy eyes, but with something else. Curiosity, respect, the way you look at a wild animal, dangerous but worthy of regard. "I died once already," he said, 5 years ago, when my wife died and I was not there. I have been living like a ghost ever since. Maybe," he looked around at the barren land, the ruined house, the broken fences. "Maybe this is where ghosts find each other." Kate frowned. No one had spoken to her like this in 2 years. No one had treated her like a person. "You are not afraid of me?" she asked. "Should I be?" Ben asked back. Kate did not answer, just turned and walked into the cottonwood grove. Ben did not follow, only stood there watching her disappear into shadow like a spirit. But when he turned back to the house, he found something on the porch step, a bucket of clear water, and a stack of firewood neatly arranged. Ben looked toward the grove, saw no one, but he knew she was watching, and for the first time in 5 years, Benjamin Hawthorne smiled. Night fell. Ben sat by the fireplace in the old house, Winchester rifle across his lap. Not because he feared Kate, but because he had heard Owen Clark, the general store owner, talk about the Dalton family, about how they killed Thomas Brennan, about how they tortured Kate. "Do not go to the cottonwoods at dusk," Owen had warned. And if you see her, do not run. Running makes it worse. But Ben had not run, and Kate had not killed him. Something had changed in that encounter. Something subtle, like a door opening just a crack. At midnight, Ben heard a soft knock at the door. His heart quickened. He grabbed the rifle, walked to the door, opened it. Kate stood there. Tall shadowed the moon behind her, creating a halo. Her face was pale, her eyes full of tears. "I need you," she said, voice trembling. "I need you to touch me." Ben swallowed. "Touch you where?" Kate lifted her skirt, revealing her legs. And Ben saw them. The scars. Thick bands of scar tissue 4 inches wide circling her thighs like phantom shackles. "Touch me there," Kate whispered. "And do not stop until you tell me whether they will split open if I have to fight." Ben looked into her eyes and understood. This was not an invitation. This was a plea for survival. "All right," he said gently. "I will look." Ben stepped aside, holding the door open. "Come inside, the light is better." Kate hesitated. 2 years since she had stepped into this house, the house Thomas built with his own hands. The house filled with memories of laughter, of dinners, of nights by the fire. But now it was empty, cold. Not a home anymore, just a shell. She stepped inside, had to duck through the door frame. Ben closed the door, lit another oil lamp. Yellow light spread, pushing shadows to the corners. "Sit down," Ben said, gesturing to the chair near the stove. Kate sat. The chair creaked under her weight, nearly twice the weight of an average woman. But it did not break. Thomas had built this chair strong. Ben knelt before her. Not rushed, not embarrassed, just calm, professional. Like a man who had tended wounded animals, who knew how to move slowly so as not to frighten them. "I am going to touch you now," he said. "If it hurts, tell me." Kate nodded but said nothing, did not trust her voice. Ben placed his hand on the first scar, gently. His fingers moved along the tissue, 4 inches wide, thick, discolored. The tissue was harder than a normal skin, but not weak, not cracked. Kate stood still as stone. Her breathing changed faster, shallower. Tears fell silently down her cheeks. Ben did not ask why. He knew. She had not let anyone touch her in 2 years. Not gently, not with care. "How long were you kept in this?" he asked softly. 37 days. Kate's voice was hoarse. "They locked them on, so I could not run while they hunted Thomas." Ben's hand shook slightly, but he did not stop, kept examining. Ran his fingers along every inch of the scar, looking for weak points, places where the tissue might tear. "I heard the gunshots on day 4. Kate continued, voice distant, as if telling someone else's story. 7 shots. From the canyon. I knew immediately. 7 bullets for Thomas. 1 for each year we loved each other. As if they were counting." Ben stopped, looked up at her face. "I am sorry." "Do not." Kate shook her head violently. "Do not apologize. Sorry does not change anything." "You are right." Ben nodded and continued his work. The second scar. Left side. Deeper but still strong. The tissue had healed cleanly despite poor care. Kate had saved herself, washed with creek water, bandaged with cloth from her old dresses. She had learned to survive alone. "My wife died in 1868, Ben said suddenly, not looking up, just focusing on his hands. "Margaret. She gave birth to our son, Samuel. I was on a cattle drive away from home 3 months. When I returned, she had been dead 2 weeks. Kate stood still, listening. "Samuel survived," Ben continued. 19 now, lives in Kansas, works at a blacksmith shop. But he does not talk to me much anymore. I think he blames me, not with words, but in his eyes. He looks at me like I let his mother die." Ben lifted his hands, examining them, scarred, calloused, hard. "These hands can drive a wagon, can herd cattle, but they could not save her. And I have carried that guilt like chains." Kate looked down at him and understood. "You have scars too," she said softly. "Yours just cannot be seen." "Yes." A long silence. Then Ben stood, looked into Kate's eyes. "Your scars have healed, solid, strong. They will not break. You can fight, you can run, you can do whatever you need." Kate asked, voice shaking. "Are you certain?" "I am certain." Kate's legs gave out. She sat heavily in the chair, sobbing. Deep wrenching tossed from her core, 2 years of fear, 2 years of wondering if she was broken beyond repair. And now a stranger told her she was whole. Ben did not touch her, just stood close, present. When the crying subsided, Kate said, voice raw, "Thank you." Ben nodded. "Thank you for trusting me." Kate wiped her tears, took a deep breath. "You said you bought this land. How much did they sell it for?" $50, Ben answered. Kate laughed bitterly. "It is worth 500. There is an underground spring running beneath the land, enough water for 10 ranches. The Dalton family has wanted it for 10 years. Thomas refused to sell, so they killed him. And now they will come to take it from me," Ben said. "Not from you, from me." Kate stood a full 1.5 feet taller than Ben. "They fear me. After I killed Frank, they knew I was not an easy victim anymore. But they will not give up. They are just waiting." Waiting for what? Waiting for me to grow weak. Waiting for me to make a mistake. Or, Kate paused, looking out the window. Waiting for someone foolish enough to buy the land so they can scare him away and take it legally. Ben thought about this. They will not scare me away. Then they will kill you, like Thomas. Maybe. Ben picked up the Winchester, checked the chamber. Or maybe this time they will not find it so easy. Kate looked at him, this 52-year-old man, gray-streaked hair, scarred hands, not trembling at all. "Why?" she asked. "Why stay? You know what is coming. You could leave, sell back to the bank, survive." Ben met her eyes. "Because for 5 years I have been running. Running from guilt, running from memory, running from myself. I am tired of running. And because," he paused, "because you deserve better than facing this alone." Kate swallowed. No one had said anything like this to her. No one had stayed. "I am dangerous," she warned. "I killed a man. I will kill again if they come." "I know. And you are not afraid?" Ben considered. "I am afraid of many things. Afraid of failing. Afraid of letting someone die while I stand by. But I am not afraid of you, Kate. I am afraid of being too cowardly to help when you need it." Kate smiled, small, but real, a crack in the armor she had worn so long. "All right, Benjamin Hawthorne, we will face them together." The next morning, Owen Clark came to visit. His face was white. "They are here," he said, no need to explain who. "Silas Dalton and his 2 remaining sons, Jake and Cole. In town since last night, they hired 3 gunmen from Texas and—" Owen swallowed. "And they met with Sheriff Wade. They are planning something." Kate stood in the shadow of the barn listening. Ben stood beside Owen, arms crossed. "Planning what?" Ben asked. "They cannot just come here and kill you," Owen explained. "Not after Thomas. Too much attention. So this time they are using the law." "How?" Owen pulled out a paper, a legal document stamped and signed. "Petition to the territorial governor, declaring Kate a public menace, requesting her arrest and commitment to the asylum in Santa Fe." Everything froze. No one spoke. Only the wind through the cottonwoods. Then Kate said, voice like ice, "They will not put me there. I told you, I do not run anymore." "You do not need to run," Ben said, turning to her. "We will fight, but smart. Not with guns, with truth." Owen nodded. "I wrote to the federal marshal's office 6 months ago, detailed everything. Thomas's murder, Wade's corruption. But no response yet." 6 months. Ben frowned, worried. "Bureaucracy is slow. We do not have time." "We have 3 days," Owen said. "Silas gave an ultimatum. Kate must leave voluntarily. After that, they come with an arrest warrant." That night, Ben and Kate sat by the fire. Not in the house. Kate still could not stay inside too long. They sat outside the barn on hay bales, watching the old house under moonlight. "Silas Dalton is the most dangerous," Kate said. "Not Jake, not Cole. Silas. He is calm, patient, uses law as a weapon. Thomas used to say the man who does not need to shout to kill you is the man you should fear most." Ben nodded. "I have met men like that. They wear vests and smile while they kill you with paperwork." "How do we fight someone like that?" "By giving them no choice," Ben answered. "By forcing them to act in daylight where everyone can see." Kate turned to him. "You have a plan." "Part of one," Ben smiled thinly. "But it requires you to do something you have not done in 2 years." "What?" Go to town, in daylight. Let people see you, not as a ghost, not as a monster, just as a woman defending her land. Kate's mouth opened. Fear crossed her face. I cannot. They will, they will look, Ben interrupted, and some will fear, but some will not, and those people will stand with you. Kate shook her head. You do not know them. 2 years and no one. Hoofbeats, multiple horses. Both stood at once. Ben grabbed his rifle. Kate tensed, ready to fight. 5 riders appeared through the ranch gate. Moonlight illuminated their faces. Jake Dalton, Cole Dalton, 3 gunmen, no Silas. The old man did not dirty his hands. He sent his sons. Jake smiled, cold, cruel. Mrs. Brennan, he called, or should I say Mrs. Monster, 3 days, remember 3 days to pack, or we come with Sheriff Wade in a straitjacket. Kate stepped from shadow, all 7 feet 2 inches of her. Moonlight made her look larger, like a giant from fairy tales. I have a message for your father, she said, voice deep, commanding. Tell Silas I do not run, I do not hide. If he wants this land, he will have to take it from my hands. And this time I will not be chained. Jake's smile faded. Cole's hand moved to his gun, but Ben stepped up, standing beside Kate. His rifle not aimed but ready. She is not alone anymore, Ben said. You want to tell your father that? A long, tense silence. Horses stamped. Wind blew through dry grass. Finally, Jake pulled his reins. 3 days, he repeated, then rode away, the others following. When they disappeared, Kate exhaled. She had not realized she was holding her breath. They will come back, she said. I know. And next time they will not just talk. I know. Kate looked at Ben. You do not have to be here. You could still leave. Ben shook his head. I told you I will not leave. Kate placed her hand on his shoulder, gently, the first time she had touched him voluntarily. Then we fight, she said. Then we fight, Ben echoed. Early morning, Ben woke to the sound of a hammer. He looked out the window, saw Kate working, repairing fence on the far side of the property, lifting posts that would take 2 men to move. She worked with the strength of 10, but movements gentle, careful, as if afraid of breaking things. Ben made coffee, brought 2 cups outside. When he approached, he saw Kate had already repaired a third of the fence work that would have taken him a week. Coffee, he said, holding up a cup. Kate stopped, turned, hesitated, then took the cup. Her hand made it look like a child's cup. Thank you, she said softly. They drank in silence. The sun rose slowly, gilding the fields. From far off, birds sang, a moment of peace between storms. You do not need to do all this, Ben said finally. We can work together. I am used to working alone, Kate replied. I know. But you do not have to anymore. Kate looked at him. Something soft in her eyes, something she had not shown anyone. Hope. Small, fragile, breakable hope. I do not know how to do this, she admitted. How to not be alone. Neither do I, Ben admitted. 5 years now, just me and Steady. But maybe, he smiled slightly, maybe 2 lonely people together are a little less lonely. Kate almost smiled. Maybe. The next 2 days passed in a strange rhythm. Not intimacy, not friendship, but something. A silent bond built through shared labor. Kate did the heavy work, lifting beams, hauling water, fixing fence sections Ben could not reach. Ben did detail work, leather rope, tools, planning. They did not talk much, did not need to. There was a language in shared labor that required no words. Mornings, Ben cooked breakfast. Kate appeared from the cottonwood grove, sat on a log near the door, never inside, not yet. They ate. Sometimes Ben told stories about Samuel, about Kansas. Sometimes Kate told stories about Thomas, about how he found her in the traveling show. He watched the show 4 nights in a row, she said, voice distant. Not from curiosity, because he could see that I was dying inside. On the 4th night, he waited by the tent, asked if I wanted to leave, just like that. Simple as that. Why did he ask? Ben said. I asked him the same thing. He said, because no one deserves to die like that. No one. Ben nodded slowly. He sounds like a good man. He was the best, Kate said. Tears tracked down, and they killed him for water. Just water. A silence. We will not let them win, Ben said. I promise. On the 3rd day, Ben made something. A small gesture, but meaningful. He built a chair, designed for Kate, 7 feet 2 inches, seat 3 feet off the ground, back tall enough to support her shoulders, arms wide enough for her frame. He worked all afternoon, measuring carefully, sawing wood, hammering nails. When finished, he placed it on the porch, said nothing, just left it there. That afternoon, Kate approached the house, stopped, looked at the chair, touched it lightly, ran her fingers over the wood, sat down slowly as if it might vanish. It did not vanish. It was solid, made right. For the first time in 2 years, Kate sat without feeling too big, too awkward. The chair embraced her perfectly. She did not know Ben was watching from the barn window, did not see him smile as she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, finally having a moment of rest. But she did not sit long. She stood, lifted the chair as if it weighed nothing, and carried it down to the cottonwood grove, to her camp, placed it beside the fire pit. The next morning it was gone from the porch. Ben did not ask, he knew. Small progress, but real. The afternoon of day 3, the last day of the Dalton ultimatum, the sky turned a strange green. The green that ranchers know means trouble. Ben stepped outside, looked up. The air was thick, heavy, birds silent. Even the wind stopped. Kate stood in the yard staring at the sky. Tornado, she said with wood turning. Big one, an hour, maybe less. We need to secure everything, Ben said. Kate nodded. Cattle. We need to move them to low ground by the creek. Less wind. They worked fast, brought steady into the barn, secured the door with cross beams, moved anything loose inside the house or barn, covered the well, reinforced the chicken coop Ben had started building. The cattle, 30 head, Ben had bought 2 days ago, were restless, anxious. They sensed danger. Kate opened the gate, began driving them toward the creek. Her presence alone was enough to move them. They feared her size, but also sensed her competence. They followed. Ben helped from behind, shouting, waving arms. Together they got the herd moving. They had just gotten the last one down to the creek when the wall hit. It was not wind, not really. It was like the fist of God slamming down on earth. The sky opened. Rain came sideways, driven by wind that screamed and howled. Temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds. Ben could barely see, could barely stand. Debris flew past. A fence post sailed by his head, missing by inches. The barn, Kate shouted over the roar. The roof. Ben looked. One of the main support beams had cracked. Could not take the stress. The whole roof was seconds from collapsing. They ran. Wind tried to knock them down with every step. They reached the barn. The beam was failing, groaning under the load. Kate did not hesitate. She moved under it, crouched and lifted. Her legs trembled from the effort. Muscles strained, but she held. Brace it, she grunted. Ben scrambled up the ladder, grabbed tools and nails. His hands shook, but he worked fast. Nailed cross beams, added supports. The roof shook and settled, but it held. Then lightning struck. Close, too close. The cottonwood nearest the barn exploded in a shower of sparks and flame. Fire caught in the dry grass despite the rain. Kate set down the beam carefully and ran. Ben followed. They fought the fire with buckets and dirt and bare hands. The wind helped and hindered spreading flames, but also bringing rain. In the chaos, something happened. The barn door, weakened from repair, swung open. A support beam, the one they had just fixed, began to slip again. Ben was underneath trying to stamp out fire when he heard Kate scream. "Look out!" He looked up, saw the beam falling. Too fast to dodge. Then Kate was there, moving faster than anything her size should move. She caught the beam one-handed mid-fall as if it weighed nothing. Her other hand grabbed Ben's collar, yanked him away. They fell together in mud and ash. The beam crashed down where Ben had been standing. Kate's face was inches from Ben's. Rain streamed down her cheeks. Her eyes wide, frightened. "You could have died," she said, voice hoarse. "So could you," Ben replied. They lay there in the mud looking at each other while the storm raged around them. But they barely noticed, just looked at each other, saw each other for the first time, really. Then Kate said very softly, "I could not let you die. I could not." "Why?" Ben asked. "Because," she hesitated. "Because for the first time in 2 years, I do not feel alone, and I could not bear being alone again." Ben reached up and touched her cheek gently. Muddy, filthy, calloused, but gentle. You will not be alone, he promised. Not anymore. Kate closed her eyes, leaned into his hand. For the first time, she allowed herself to be weak, allowed herself to need someone. And in that moment, something changed between them. A wall, the last wall, collapsed. When the tornado finally passed, when the rain slowed to drizzle and the wind died to whispers, they sat up. The barn was damaged, but standing. The house intact. The fire out. They had survived. Kate stood, offered her hand down to Ben. He took it. She pulled him to his feet as if he weighed nothing. Thank you, Ben said. Thank you, Kate replied. They stood there holding hands while the world dripped and settled around them. I have not touched anyone in 2 years, Kate said softly. Not like this. Neither have I, Ben admitted. Kate looked down at their hands, hers so large his looked like a child's. But warm, real. I had forgotten what being held feels like, she whispered. Ben squeezed her hand gently. Now you remember. Kate nodded, tears mixed with rain on her face. The storm is not done, Kate said, looking at the sky. It was still dark green, swirling. There will be more. You should stay in the house. What about you? Ben asked. Kate hesitated, looked at the house, looked at the cottonwood grove. For 2 years she had lived out there, where it was safe, where she could be alone. But now alone felt lonely. You could come to my camp, she said suddenly. Just tonight. The storm is not done, and, she swallowed, and I do not want to be alone tonight. Ben looked at her, saw what the invitation was, not sexual, not romantic, something deeper. Trust. Connection. All right, he said gently. They walked to the cottonwood grove together. Kate's camp was simple. Fire pit blanket, woven from wool, a few cooking implements, and the chair Ben had made. And near the largest tree, the wooden cross. Thomas Brennan, beloved husband, 1850 to 1885. Kate built a new fire with practiced ease. Soon they had flame-warm light against gathering darkness. They sat, Ben on a log, Kate in the chair, fire between them. Outside, wind blew through trees carrying whispers of rain, but under the canopy they were sheltered, safe. When Thomas died, Kate began, a voice distant. I thought I died too. Thought the part of me that could feel anything good was gone. I became a thing, a ghost, something people feared instead of knew. Ben listened, did not interrupt. I killed Frank Dalton with my hands, she continued, felt his bones break. And for 2 seconds, only 2 seconds, I was glad. I felt powerful instead of weak, strong instead of victim. She looked at Ben. Does that make me a monster? No, Ben said without hesitation. It makes you human. Being angry at people who hurt you, wanting them to pay, that is as natural as breathing. What matters is what you did after. And you did not become a killer. You did not hunt Jake and Cole. You protected this land. You survived. That is what humans do. Kate took a shaky breath. Tears fell silently. Thank you, she whispered. They sat in silence. Fire crackled. Somewhere an owl called. Then Ben said, I died when Margaret died. Not physically, but inside. I closed off. Never got close to Samuel. Never got close to anyone. I was afraid. Afraid if I loved someone, I would fail them like I failed her. But you did not fail her, Kate said softly. You were working. You did not know. I know, here. Ben pointed to his head, but not here. He pointed to his heart. Kate nodded. She understood. Guilt does not live in logic. It lives in bone. But since coming here, Ben continued, since meeting you, I feel something changing. Like I am waking up. Kate looked at him across the fire. Light danced on his face, 52 years, gray beard, kind eyes. Me too, she admitted. I feel like I am breathing for the first time in 2 years. They sat like that, close but not touching, for a long time. Fire burned low. Stars emerged one by one as clouds broke. Finally, Kate said, you can sleep here tonight. I have extra blankets. Ben nodded. Thank you. They lay down, a few feet apart, separate blankets, but in the same space, not alone. Kate lay awake, staring at the glowing embers of the fire. For 2 years she had slept in vigilance, ready to fight or flee. But tonight with Ben nearby, she felt safe. Her eyes closed, her breathing slowed. And for the first time since Thomas died, Kate Brennan slept without nightmares. But at dawn, a sound woke them both. Hoofbeats, many horses, coming fast. Ben and Kate sat up at once, looked at each other, alarm in their eyes. Dalton's? Ben asked. Or worse, Kate replied. They ran toward the house. When they emerged from the cottonwood grove, they saw them. Not 5 riders, 15. Silas Dalton had brought an army. The 15 riders formed a crescent in front of the ranch house, silhouetted against the rising sun. At the center sat a man Ben had not seen before but knew immediately, Silas Dalton. He was 58, wearing a dark suit despite the early hour white shirt crisp even after the ride. His face was weathered but calm, hands resting easy on the saddle horn. No gun visible. He did not need one. The 6 hired guns flanking him carried enough firepower for 10 men. Beside Silas sat his sons, Jake on the left, cold and watchful, Cole on the right hand, already resting on his pistol grip. 3 more riders Ben recognized as ranch hands from town. The rest were strangers, hard men with dead eyes. Ben and Kate stood in the yard. Kate's dress was still damp from last night's storm, her hair tangled. Ben's clothes were caked with mud. They looked like survivors of a disaster, which Ben supposed they were. Silas dismounted slowly, the movement deliberate, unhurried. He walked forward 20 paces, stopped, close enough to talk without shouting, far enough to stay safe. Mrs. Brennan, he said, his voice was quiet, educated, the voice of a man who had learned that power whispers. I apologize for the early hour, but I felt this matter required personal attention. Kate said nothing, just stared. Silas continued. I knew your husband. Thomas was a good man, stubborn but good. I made him several fair offers for this property. He refused them all. I respected that. A man has a right to his land. You killed him, Kate said flatly. No. Silas shook his head. My son Frank killed him, without my knowledge or consent. Frank always was too impulsive, too eager to solve problems with violence. I did not condone what he did, and I did not condone what happened to you. Kate's hands clenched into fists. You lie. Silas tilted his head. Frank acted alone, he and his hired men. When I discovered what they had done, I was furious. But Frank paid for his crimes, did he not? You saw to that personally. The words hung in the air, an accusation wrapped in courtesy. Ben stepped forward. What do you want, Dalton? Silas looked at him for the first time, really looked, measuring. You must be the new owner. Mr. Hawthorne, is it, from Missouri? Originally, I understand, recently widowed, drifting west looking for a fresh start. Silas smiled thinly. I make it my business to know who buys property in my county. Your county, Ben said. A manner of speaking. I have been here 30 years. I have investments, interests, this land. Silas gestured around them. This land has water, a great deal of water. Underground springs that could support a dozen ranches. Enough water to make this valley prosper. Or enough to make one man very rich, Ben said. That too. Silas did not deny it. I will be direct, Mr. Hawthorne. I am willing to pay you $500 for this property. Right now, cash. That is 10 times what you paid. You take the money, leave today, and forget you ever came here. And if I refuse, Silas sighed, then things become complicated. You see, Mrs. Brennan is wanted by the territorial authorities. There is a petition signed by 20 townspeople declaring her a danger to public safety. Sheriff Wade has a warrant for her arrest. She will be taken to Santa Fe, evaluated by doctors committed to an asylum. Kate growled low in her throat. Once she is gone, Silas continued, the land will go to public auction. I will buy it legally. You will be evicted, and you will have nothing. No land, no money, and the knowledge that you failed to protect the woman standing beside you. Ben felt ice in his gut. This was not a threat. It was a forecast. Silas had already won. He was just explaining how. 3 days ago, Ben said slowly, your sons came here, gave us an ultimatum. 3 days to leave. The 3 days are up. So why are you here talking instead of bringing Sheriff Wade? Something flickered in Silas's eyes. Annoyance, perhaps, or respect. Because I prefer to solve problems without violence, Silas said. Violence is expensive. It draws attention. It creates complications. I would rather pay you to leave than force you out. It is cleaner. Cleaner for you, Kate said. Cleaner for everyone. Silas turned to her. Mrs. Brennan, I understand your anger. I do. But you must see reason. You killed my son. The law cannot ignore that no matter the circumstances. If you stay here, you will spend the rest of your life in an asylum. You will die in a cage. Is that what Thomas would have wanted? Kate flinched. Using Thomas's name was a calculated cruelty. Ben moved to stand beside Kate. We are not leaving. Then you are fools. Silas's courtesy dropped away for a moment. His voice went cold. I am trying to save your lives. Both of you. Wade will be here tomorrow with deputies and a warrant. He will take her by force if necessary. And if you interfere, Mr. Hawthorne, he will shoot you dead and call it resisting arrest. That is not a threat. That is simple fact. Tomorrow, Ben said. So we have one more day. One more day to come to your senses, yes. Silas remounted his horse. I will be at the Blackstone Hotel until noon tomorrow. If you wish to accept my offer, you know where to find me. He turned his horse, began to ride away, then stopped, looked back. Mrs. Brennan, one more thing. Your husband was a good man. Honor his memory by staying alive. Do not throw your life away for pride. Then he rode off, his small army following. Ben and Kate stood in the yard until the riders disappeared over the ridge. Only then did Kate's legs give out. She sat hard on the ground, shaking. He is going to win, she said. He has the law. He has the town. He has everything. Ben knelt beside her. He does not have everything. He does not have the truth. Truth does not matter, Kate said bitterly. Power matters, and he has all the power. Not all of it. Ben stood, offered his hand. Come on, we have work to do. Kate looked up at him. What work? We are going to town today, right now. Ben, no, that is exactly what he wants. He wants me in public so Wade can arrest me. Wade does not have a warrant yet. Silas said tomorrow. That means today we are still free, and we are going to use that freedom. Kate shook her head. It is suicide. It is the only move we have left. Ben pulled her to her feet. Silas thinks we will run or hide. We are going to do the opposite. We are going to show the whole town that you are not a monster. You are a woman defending her home, and we are going to make them choose whose side they are on. They will choose his side. They always do. Maybe, or maybe not, but we have to try. Kate looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. All right, we try. They rode into Blackstone at mid-morning. Kate on the draft horse Owen had found big enough to carry her weight. Ben on steady, riding beside her like an equal. The town looked the same as 3 days ago. Adobe buildings, weathered wood, a main street that had given up on ambition. But as they rode down that street, everything changed. Curtains twitched, doors opened. People stepped out, staring. Not with curiosity, with shock, with fear, with something else too, something that might have been hope. Ben felt eyes on them from every direction, heard whispers, saw fingers pointing, but he kept riding steady pace, not hurrying, not slowing. Kate rode beside him, head high, not shrinking, not hiding. They tied their horses outside Owen's general store. Owen appeared in the doorway immediately, face pale. Miss Kate, he said, Mr. Hawthorne, you should not be here. Wade does not have a warrant yet, Ben said. We still have today. A crowd was gathering, 30 people now, then 40, standing in a loose circle around them. Ben saw fear on some faces, anger on others, but also curiosity, interest. Then Rebecca Hayes emerged from the crowd. She wore a simple brown dress, hair tied back, but she moved with dignity, confidence. In her hand, she carried a blue wool shawl. She walked straight up to Kate, did not hesitate, did not flinch. Miss Kate, she said, I made this for you as thanks for showing me what strength looks like. Whereat Kate took the shawl, hands trembling. It was beautiful, soft, made with care. Kate's voice caught. I do not understand. I do, Rebecca smiled. 2 years ago, my husband beat me unconscious. I woke up in blood. I thought about killing myself that day, but I did not, Because somewhere deep down I thought maybe I could be strong enough to leave, strong enough to start over. And when I heard about you, about what you did to Frank Dalton, I knew I was right. Strength is not about size. It is about refusing to stay a victim. She turned to the crowd, raised her voice. This woman lost her husband. She was tortured. She defended herself. And for 2 years we let her live like an animal in the woods because we were too afraid to see her as human. Well, I am done being afraid. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some people nodded. Others looked uncertain. Then Sheriff Clayton Wade pushed through, hand on his gun. That is enough, he said. Mrs. Brennan, I am placing you under town arrest for disturbing the peace. On what grounds, Ben said. On the grounds that she is a public menace, Wade said. I have a petition signed by 20 citizens. Signed before they saw her, Rebecca said. Let them look at her now. Let them decide. Wade's face reddened. You are interfering with the law, Mrs. Hayes. No, I am standing with my neighbor. Is that illegal, Sheriff? Wade opened Pa's mouth, closed it. He was trapped. If he arrested Rebecca too, he would look like a tyrant. But if he backed down, he would look weak. The moment stretched, tense, fragile. Then another voice spoke. She is not alone. An old woman stepped forward. Ben recognized her from the crowd, gray-haired, weathered, maybe 70. My granddaughter is 6 feet tall, the woman said. Tallest girl in 3 counties. She thinks she is a freak. I'm going to tell her about Miss Kate. Tell her that tall women can be anything they choose. Another woman stepped forward, then another. Within moments, 10 women stood between Kate and Wade, a human wall. Wade looked around, saw the crowd watching, saw that if he tried to force this, he would have a riot. This is not over, he said. Tomorrow I will have a legal warrant, and then no one will protect you. He turned and pushed back through the crowd, gone. The crowd began to disperse slowly, but before they left, several people approached Kate, touched her hand, spoke quietly. Thank you. Stay strong. We see you. Kate stood stunned. For 2 years, no one had touched her with kindness, and now strangers were offering comfort. Ben watched it happen, saw the shift. Silas had made a mistake. He had given them 3 days. 3 days for Kate to become human in the town's eyes again. It might not be enough, but it was something. As they prepared to leave, Owen pulled Ben aside. That was brave, Owen said quietly, and foolish. Tomorrow when Wade comes with that warrant, these women will not be able to stop him. I know, Ben said, but maybe they planted a seed. Maybe when the trial comes, people will remember this moment. Trial. Owen frowned. There will be no trial. Silas will have her committed before any judge hears the case. Not if the right judge hears it first. Ben looked at Owen. Your letter to the federal marshal. You are certain it was delivered. I sent it through official channels. It should have reached Santa Fe months ago. Then where is the response? Owen had no answer. They rode home in silence. The sun was high now, heat bearing down. But the land seemed different, less hostile, as if something had shifted. When they reached the ranch, Kate dismounted slowly. She looked drained, not from physical effort, but from emotion. I cannot believe they stood with me, she said. They did not stand with you, Ben said. They stood with themselves. They stood against being afraid. That is even better. Kate smiled, small but real. Then the smile faded. Ben, even if some people support me, it will not matter. Tomorrow Wade will come. He will have a warrant and deputies and guns. He will take me, and there is nothing we can do to stop it. Ben dismounted, came to stand beside her. Yes, there is. We can fight. How, Ian? The tunnels. You said Thomas built tunnels under this land. You know every inch of them. If Wade comes, we disappear. We lead him into the tunnels. We make it so hard, so expensive, so public that Silas has to back down. Kate shook her head. That is not fighting. That is running. It is surviving, and survival is its own kind of victory. Kate looked at the house, at the barn, at the land Thomas had built with his own hands. I am tired of running, she said. Tired of hiding. Then we stand, Ben said, but we stand smart. We use every advantage. We make Silas and Wade work for it. And we make sure the whole territory is watching when they do. Kate turned to him. You think that will make a difference? I think it is our only chance. That afternoon they prepared, not for running, for war. Kate showed Ben the tunnel entrances, one under the barn, one near the creek, one hidden in the cottonwood grove. Narrow passages barely tall enough for Kate to crouch but passable. Thomas had dug them himself over years, reinforced with timber kept secret. He knew this day might come, Kate said as they examined the tunnels by lantern light. Knew Silas would eventually try to take the land by force. He wanted me to have a way out. Thomas was a smart man, Ben said. They stocked the tunnels with supplies. Water, food, blankets, ammunition, not planning to live down there, but planning to survive if needed. As they worked, Ben asked the question that had been bothering him. Kate, why did Frank come alone that night? After Thomas died, why did Frank try to take you alone instead of bringing his brothers? Kate was silent for a long moment. Because he thought I was helpless, she said finally. I had been chained for 37 days. I was weak, starving. He thought I would be easy. But you were not. No, when he unlocked the chains, I could barely stand. He laughed, said things, terrible things about Thomas, about what they did to him before shooting him, how Thomas begged, how he cried. Kate's hands clenched into fists. I felt something break inside me. Not break apart, break open. All the grief, all the rage, all the helplessness, it turned into something else. Strength, pure terrible strength, and I used it. Ben nodded slowly. You had every right. Did I? I was glad when I felt his neck snap. For 2 seconds, I was glad. Does that make me a murderer? It makes you human, Ben said again. Kate, you have to stop punishing yourself for surviving. You have to stop thinking that feeling powerful for 2 seconds erases the 37 days of torture. It does not. Kate looked at him. How do you know you were not there? No, but I know guilt. I know what it does. And I know that carrying it will not bring Thomas back. It will only destroy you. Kate's eyes filled with tears. I do not know how to let it go. You do not have to let it go, Ben said. You just have to stop letting it control you. They emerged from the tunnels as the sun began to set. The sky was clear now, the storm long past. Stars would be visible soon. As they walked back to the house, Kate said something she had been thinking all day. Ben, if Wade comes tomorrow and tries to take me, I am going to fight. I will not hurt anyone if I can help it, but I will not go quietly to an asylum. I would rather die here on this land than live the rest of my life in a cage. Ben stopped walking, turned to face her. You will not die here, he said, and you will not go to an asylum, because tomorrow we are going to give Silas Dalton a choice. He can pursue this quietly and lose, or he can pursue it publicly and lose worse. How? Trust me, Ben said. I have an idea. That night they did not sleep in separate places. Kate invited Ben to stay in the barn in her section where she had made her space over the past days. 2 bedrolls close but not touching. Company without intimacy. They lay in darkness listening to the night sounds. Crickets, wind through cottonwoods, steady shifting in his stall. Ben, Kate said softly, why are you doing this? Really, you could have left days ago. You could have taken Silas's money and started over somewhere else. Why stay? Ben thought about the question. The real answer. Because 5 years ago I was not there when Margaret needed me, he said. Because my son looks at me with disappointment. Because I have spent 5 years running from the man I became when I failed them. And because, he paused, because you are the first person in 5 years who made me feel like maybe I could be that man again. The man who stays, who fights, who does not run. Kate was quiet, then softly, I am glad you stayed. So am I. They lay in comfortable silence, and slowly both drifted into sleep. Dawn came too quickly. Ben woke to the sound of hoofbeats, multiple horses, coming fast from the direction of town. He sat up, heart pounding. Beside him, Kate was already awake, tense. Wade, she said, yes. They stood, moved to the barn, door looked out. 8 riders, Sheriff Wade and Front Star pinned to his chest. Behind him, 6 deputies Ben did not recognize, and behind them, riding separate, Silas Dalton. Wade had his warrant, and Silas had come to watch. They halted in front of the house. Wade dismounted, unrolled a paper. Mrs. Catherine Brennan, he called out, by order of the territorial governor and on petition of concerned citizens, You are hereby ordered into custody for psychiatric evaluation. If you resist, I am authorized to use necessary force. Kate stepped out of the barn, Ben beside her. I am not going, Kate said. Wade's hand moved to his gun. Then we will take you. You will try, Kate said. The deputies spread out surrounding them, professional, efficient. This was not their first difficult arrest. Ben stepped forward. Sheriff Wade, before you do this, I want you to know something. There are 20 people watching from town right now. They rode out before dawn on horseback and in wagons. They are on the ridge watching through spyglasses. Whatever happens here today will be seen, will be reported, will be known by everyone in 3 counties. Wade hesitated, looked at the ridge. Ben was bluffing. There was no one there, but Wade did not know that. Silas dismounted, walked forward. Sheriff, arrest her, now. Wade looked at Silas, at Kate, at Ben, making a calculation. Then he drew his gun. Last chance, Mrs. Brennan. Come quietly or we drag you. Kate looked at Ben. He nodded very slightly. Kate walked forward, hands raised. I will go, she said, but I have one request. You are in no position to make request, Wade said. Let him come with me. Kate gestured to Ben. Let him ride along to Santa Fe as witness to ensure I am treated fairly. Wade laughed. No. Then I resist, Kate said simply, and she moved. Not attacking, withdrawing. She spun faster than something her size should move and ran for the barn. Ben ran with her. The deputies shouted, gave chase. Kate reached the barn, ducked inside. Ben followed, slammed the door. They heard footsteps, men surrounding the building. Now what? Kate whispered. Now this. Ben lit a match, held it to a pile of straw near the tunnel entrance. Smoke began to rise. Not enough to cause real fire, but enough to create confusion. They dropped into the tunnel, pulled the hidden door shut above them. Above, they heard shouting, smelled smoke, heard men calling for water. They crawled through darkness, Kate leading, moving by memory, through passages she knew by heart. They emerged 10 minutes later, near the creek a quarter mile from the house. Look back. The barn was not burning. The deputies had contained it. But they were searching, confused, angry. What now? Kate asked. Now we go to town, to see Judge Harlan. Silas brought him from Santa Fe for the asylum hearing. But before that hearing, we are going to demand a real trial, in public, with witnesses, and we are going to make Silas fight for every inch. Harlan is Silas's man, Kate said. Everyone knows it. Maybe, but he is still a judge, and judges care about their reputations. If we can force this into the open, make it public, Harlan will have to at least pretend to be fair. Kate looked doubtful, but she had no better plan. They circled wide around the ranch, staying out of sight. Reached their horses still tied near the cottonwood grove. Mounted, rode hard for town. Behind them they heard shouting. Wade had discovered the tunnel, but by then they had a 10-minute lead. It would have to be enough. They reached Blackstone at mid-morning, rode straight to the courthouse, a 2-story adobe building at the end of Main Street. A crowd had already gathered. Word traveled fast. People knew something was happening. Ben and Kate dismounted, walked up the courthouse steps. At the top, Sheriff Wade stood blocking their way. He had ridden hard, gotten there first. You are under arrest, he said. For what crime? Ben demanded. Resisting arrest, destruction of property, assault on an officer. I assaulted no one, Kate said. You fled, that is resistance. I walked away. You chose to chase, the crowd murmured, watching, listening. Wade drew his pistol, aimed it at Kate's chest. On your knees, he commanded. Now. Kate did not move. Ben stepped in front of her. You will have to shoot me first, Ben said quietly. Wade's finger tightened on the trigger. The crowd held its breath. Then a voice cut through. Sheriff Wade, step aside. Everyone turned. A man stood at the courthouse door. Mid-40s tall, lean, wearing a dark coat and wide-brimmed hat. A silver star on his chest, but different from Wade's. Federal. Who are you, Wagner? Wade demanded. The man pulled out a leather wallet, flipped it open. Federal Marshal William Cross. I have orders from the Department of Justice to investigate allegations of corruption in Blackstone County. Specifically, allegations of murder, bribery, and abuse of office. The crowd went silent, shocked. Silas Dalton appeared from the crowd, face pale but controlled. Marshal, I believe there has been some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Mr. Dalton. Cross pulled out a sheaf of papers. I have 3 months of investigative reports. I have testimony from witnesses. And I have warrants for your arrest and Sheriff Wade's arrest on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, corruption, and attempted theft of federal land. Federal land, Wade sputtered. The underground spring on the Brennan property was surveyed last year as part of the Territorial Water Rights Assessment. It is a protected federal resource. Your attempt to acquire it through violence and intimidation constitutes federal crime. Cross turned to his deputies, 4 men who had been standing quietly in the crowd. Arrest them both. Wade's hand moved to his gun, but Cross was faster, had his pistol aimed before Wade cleared leather. Do not, Cross said calmly. Wade froze, slowly raised his hands. Cross's deputies moved in, took Wade's gun, put him in chains. Did the same to Silas. Jake and Cole Dalton were in the crowd. Jake's hand moved to his gun, but Owen Clark stepped in front of him, shotgun leveled. Do not be as stupid as your father, Owen said quietly. Jake looked around, saw a dozen townsmen had drawn weapons, not pointing at him, just ready. He lowered his hand. Cross turned to Kate. Mrs. Brennan, on behalf of the territorial government, I apologize. You have been grievously wronged. The charges against you are dismissed. Your land rights are confirmed, and you have my word that no one will trouble you again. Kate stood frozen, unable to process what just happened. How? She finally asked. Cross smiled slightly. Owen Clark wrote to my office 6 months ago, detailed everything, Thomas's murder, Wade's corruption, the Dalton's land grab. I investigated, found he was right about everything. Kate turned to Owen. He shrugged, embarrassed. Thomas was my friend. I owed him justice. Tears streamed down Kate's face. Thank you. The crowd erupted, not in violence, in celebration. People cheering, shouting, embracing. 2 years of fear and corruption ended in minutes. Rebecca pushed through the crowd, hugged Kate, other women followed. Then men. Within moments, Kate was surrounded by townspeople offering congratulations, apologies, support. Ben stood back watching, saw the transformation. Kate was no longer the ghost, the monster. She was a woman, a neighbor, a survivor. Silas Dalton in chains caught Ben's eye. For a moment, their gazes locked. Silas's face showed no anger, just resignation. He had played the game. He had lost. That was all. Cross approached Ben, extended his hand. Mr. Hawthorne, thank you for keeping her safe. I know it was not easy. Ben shook his hand. I did what anyone should have done. But you were the only one who did it. Cross tipped his hat. That counts for something. As Cross led Wade and Silas away, as the crowd slowly dispersed, Kate came to Ben. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. We won, she said, voice full of wonder. We actually won. You won, Ben corrected. You survived. You fought. You refused to become what they said you were. Kate shook her head. I could not have done it alone. If you had not stayed, if you had not believed in me, you would have found another way, Ben said. You are stronger than you know. Kate looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, she leaned down and kissed him. Gentle, tentative. The first kiss in 2 years. The first kiss since Thomas. Ben kissed her back, and for that moment, everything else fell away. The crowd, the town, the past. Just the two of them finding each other in the wreckage of their broken lives. When they pulled apart, Kate whispered, Thank you for everything. Thank you, Ben replied, for letting me stay. They stood together, hands joined, while Blackstone celebrated around them. And for the first time in a long time, the future looked like something other than darkness. The weeks after Silas Dalton's arrest brought changes to Blackstone that no one could have predicted. The town that had whispered about the cursed widow now spoke openly about justice, about redemption, about second chances. Sheriff Wade's deputy, a young man named Daniel Pierce, was appointed temporary sheriff. He was 26, earnest, and terrified of making mistakes. His first act was to ride out to the Brennan Ranch and apologize to Kate personally. I knew it was wrong, he said, hat in hands, what Wade was doing, what Dalton was paying him for. But I was afraid of losing my job, afraid of crossing them. I am ashamed. Kate looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Fear makes cowards of good men, she said. But you are here now. That counts for something. Pierce left looking lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Owen Clark visited 3 days later, bringing supplies and news. The territorial governor had ordered a full investigation into land deals in the county. Dozens of properties that Silas had acquired through intimidation and fraud were being reviewed. Some would be returned to their original owners. Others would be sold at auction, the proceeds going to victims. Thomas's death meant something, Owen said as they sat on the porch. It exposed a rot that had been growing for years. Because of him, because of you, dozens of families will get justice. Kate looked out at the land Thomas had loved, had died for. I wish he could see it, she said softly. I think he does, Owen replied. The ranch itself began to transform. Ben worked sunrise to sunset, repairing fences, reinforcing the barn, expanding the house. Kate worked beside him, her strength making tasks that should have taken weeks pass in days. But she was careful now, gentle, no longer afraid of her own power. They fell into a rhythm. Mornings Ben cooked breakfast. Simple fare bacon and eggs and coffee, but made with care. Kate would appear from the barn, where she still slept, though she was spending more time in the house now. They would eat together, plan the day's work talk. Sometimes they talked about the past. Kate told stories about Thomas, about their years together. The first time he kissed her, she said he had to stand on a wagon to reach her face. She laughed, telling it genuine laughter, the kind that came from mourn rather than bitterness. Ben talked about Margaret, about Samuel, about the guilt that still lived in him but no longer ruled him. Do you think he will ever forgive me? Ben asked one morning. I think he already has, Kate said. The question is whether you will forgive yourself. Ben had no answer to that, but the question itself felt like progress. Other changes came quietly. Rebecca Hayes began visiting weekly, bringing other women from town. They would sit on the porch or under the cottonwoods drinking tea, talking about life, about loss, about surviving. One afternoon, a young woman appeared tall and awkward, maybe 16. She was nearly 6.5 feet, all limbs and uncertainty. My grandmother said I should meet you, the girl said, barely able to meet Kate's eyes. She said you would understand. Kate looked at her, saw herself at that age, frightened, ashamed, convinced she was a mistake. Come sit, Kate said gently. Tell me your name. Sarah. Sarah, did you know what the worst thing about being tall is? The girl shook her head. The worst thing is believing you have to make yourself small to make others comfortable. The best thing is the day you stop believing that. They talked for 2 hours. When Sarah left, she stood straighter, walked taller, like she had permission to take up space. You are good with her, Ben said, watching from the barn. I remember what it was like, Kate replied. Feeling like a freak, like I did not belong anywhere. If I can help her avoid some of that pain, I will. The ranch became a place people came to, not just to see the giant woman, but to see Kate, to talk to someone who understood what it meant to survive impossible things, to be different and refuse to apologize for it. An older man appeared one day, black skin weathered by sun and years. He was maybe 60, carrying everything he owned in a pack on his back. I heard this place welcomes strangers, he said. It does, Kate replied. What is your name? Moses. Moses Freeman. Well, Moses Freeman, we have work if you want it, and a place to stay if you need it. Moses looked at her, studying her face, then at the land. I have been run out of 3 towns, he said quietly, for being what I am. If I stay here, will that bring you trouble? No more than we already have, Ben said, stepping out of the barn. You are welcome. Moses stayed. He knew horses better than anyone Ben had ever met. Within a week, Steady was healthier. The new horses they bought were better trained, and the barn was organized with a precision that bordered on art. Where did you learn this? Ben asked one evening. Kentucky, Moses said. Worked in racing stables before the war. After, he trailed off. Did not need to finish. After the war, a black man with skills was still just a black man to most people. Disposable, invisible. You are not invisible here, Kate said. Moses nodded. I am beginning to see that. By late spring, 6 months after Ben arrived, the ranch was unrecognizable. The house had been expanded, rooms added, windows installed. The barn was twice its original size. Fences extended across 50 acres now, not 20. They had 60 head of cattle, a growing herd of horses, chickens, even a few pigs. But more than physical changes, something else had shifted. The ranch had become a community. Moses lived in the barn by choice, preferring his own space. Rebecca visited so often she kept a room in the house. Sarah came every Sunday helping with chores, learning from Kate how to move through a world not built for her size. Others came too. A Chinese family, the Chens, fleeing persecution in Colorado. Ben gave them 5 acres on the far side of the property to farm. Within months, they were growing vegetables that sold in town for prices that made Owen Clark jealous. A woman named Margaret, no relation to Ben's wife, but the name still made him pause, appeared one afternoon with 2 small children and a black eye that was still healing. "I heard this is a safe place," she said. "I heard you do not turn people away." "You heard right," Kate said. "Stay as long as you need." Margaret stayed 3 months, long enough to heal, long enough to learn she did not need a man to survive. When she left, she did not go back to her husband. She went to Santa Fe, started a boarding house, wrote to Kate every month about how business was good, how her children were thriving, how she finally felt free. The ranch became known, not just in Blackstone, but throughout the territory, the place where outcasts became people, where being different was not a curse, but simply a fact, where everyone worked and everyone ate, and no one asked too many questions about your past. Ben watched it happen with something like awe. "You built this," he said to Kate one evening as they watched the sunset from the porch. "We built this," Kate corrected. "I could not have done it without you. I just helped with the construction. No, you gave me permission to be human again." Everything else grew from that. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Kate said something that had been building in her for weeks. "Ben, I need to tell you something." He turned to look at her, saw seriousness in her face. "I am falling in love with you," Kate said, "and it terrifies me." Ben's heart quickened. "Why terrifying?" "Because everyone I have loved has been taken from me. My parents, Thomas. I cannot bear losing someone else." "You will not lose me." "You cannot promise that." "No," Ben admitted, "but I can promise I will fight like hell to stay." And Kate, he took her hands so large his fit inside like a child's. "I am falling in love with you too." Kate drew a sharp breath. "Truly, truly." They sat like that, hands joined, while the sky darkened and stars emerged. Around them, the ranch settled into evening rhythms. Cattle lowing, chickens roosting, voices from the house where Moses and the Chens were sharing dinner. "I want to try something," Kate said softly. "Anything. I want to kiss you, but I am afraid I will be too clumsy, too much." Ben stepped up onto the porch railing so their faces were level. "You could never be too much," he said. Kate leaned in. Their lips met, gentle at first, then deeper. A kiss that tasted of hope and healing and the possibility of a future without pain. When they pulled apart, both were crying. "I have been waiting 6 months to do that," Kate whispered. "Was it worth the wait?" "Every second." Summer arrived hot and dry. The underground spring kept the ranch green while neighboring properties turned brown. Ben organized a system to share water with nearby ranchers, refusing to hoard what the land provided. The gesture built goodwill, built community. In July, Samuel appeared. Ben was working in the barn when he heard a voice he had not heard in 5 years. "Father." Ben turned. There in the doorway stood his son, 19 now, fully grown, broad shoulders from blacksmith work, but the same eyes as his mother. "Samuel." Ben could barely speak. "You came. I got your letter. Took me 2 months to decide, but I came." They stood awkwardly, neither knowing how to bridge 5 years of silence. Then Samuel said, "I want to meet her, the woman you wrote about, Kate." Ben nodded, led him out to the field where Kate was working, stringing new fence line with Moses's help. When she saw them approaching, she straightened. Even at a distance, her height was obvious. Samuel stopped dead. "That is her." "Yes." "She is over 7 feet tall, I know. But Samuel, she is also the kindest, strongest, most remarkable person I have ever met. She saved my life, not from Dalton, from myself." They approached. Kate set down her tools, wiped sweat from her brow. "Kate," Ben said, "this is my son, Samuel." Kate looked down at the young man, saw Ben's features in his face, saw suspicion too, judgment, the same look she had seen in so many eyes. But she also saw pain, the pain of a boy who lost his mother and blamed his father. Hello, Samuel, she said gently. Your father talks about you often. He is very proud of you. He, Samuel's voice was sharp. Strange way to show it, disappearing for 5 years. Samuel, Ben started, but Kate held up a hand. He is right to be angry. You left him when he needed you. That is not erased by time or distance. Samuel looked at her surprised. No one had acknowledged his anger before. Everyone had told him to forgive, to understand, to move on. I was angry too, Kate continued. When my husband died, I blamed everyone. God, the Daltons, the town, myself. Anger is not wrong. It is what you do with it that matters. Samuel's jaw tightened. What did you do with yours? I let it make me into something I was not. A monster. A ghost. I stopped being human because I thought humans could not survive that much pain. Your father helped me see I was wrong. She looked at Ben with such tenderness that Samuel felt something crack inside him. He is not perfect, Kate said, but he is here now. He stayed when he could have run. He fought when he could have surrendered. That has to count for something. Samuel looked at his father, really looked, saw the gray in his beard, the lines around his eyes, the way he stood a little taller than he used to, as if he had found something to stand for. I am sorry, Ben said. I should have been there. For you, for your mother, I failed you both. I cannot change that. But I can be here now if you will let me. Samuel's eyes filled with tears. I missed you. I was so angry, but I missed you. Ben stepped forward, embraced his son. They held each other, both crying, 5 years of pain flowing out in salt water. Kate turned away, giving them privacy. Moses did the same. Some moments were too sacred for witnesses. When they finally separated, Samuel wiped his eyes. Can I stay a few days? Get to know this place. You can stay as long as you want, Ben said. This is your home too, if you want it to be. Samuel stayed 2 weeks. In that time, he saw what Ben and Kate had built. Saw the people who came seeking shelter and found family. Saw his father work alongside former slaves and immigrants and women fleeing violence, treating everyone with the same respect. On his last day, Samuel pulled Ben aside. You should marry her, he said. Ben blinked. What? Kate, you should marry her. I see how you look at each other, how she makes you better, how you make her better. Life is too short to wait. Samuel, I am 53. She is 36. People will talk. Let them talk. You have already been dead for 5 years. Do not waste more time being alive. After Samuel left, promising to visit again at Christmas, Ben thought about his words, about marriage, about Kate. They had been together in every way except legal. They worked together, lived together in practice if not yet in full. Everyone on the ranch treated them as a unit, but they had never spoken of marriage. Maybe it was time. That evening, Ben found Kate by Thomas's grave in the cottonwood grove. She came here sometimes, sitting in the chair Ben had made, talking to the wooden cross. I brought someone to meet you, Kate was saying softly. His name is Ben, Benjamin Hawthorne. He is good, like you were. Different, but good. I think you would have liked him. She paused as if listening for a response. I know I said I would never love anyone again. But I was wrong. I'm ready to stop being your widow. Not stop loving you, but stop living in the past. Is that all right? The wind rustled through the cottonwoods. A gentle whisper. Ben cleared his throat. Kate turned, saw him. I am sorry, Ben said. I did not mean to intrude. You are not intruding. I was just, she gestured to the grave, talking to him. What did he say? Kate smiled. Nothing, but the silence felt like permission. Ben walked closer, knelt beside her chair so they were eye level. Kate, I have something to ask you. She looked at him, curious. I know this is not traditional. I know I should have a ring, should have planned something special. But I am 53 years old, and I have learned that life does not wait for perfect moments. Kate's eyes widened. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Ben, are you certain I am not easy to love? I am difficult. I am damaged. I am... Perfect, Ben interrupted. You are perfect, not despite your scars, because of them, because they prove you survived, because they prove you are strong enough to choose love after losing it. Kate pulled him up into her arms, held him close. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you. They embraced in the gathering darkness, Thomas's grave witnessing, giving silent blessing. They married in September, 1 year after Ben arrived. The ceremony was held under the cottonwoods, the same place where Kate had hidden for 2 years. Now it was a place of celebration. Owen Clark officiated. Rebecca stood as witness. Samuel came from Kansas, brought 3 of his blacksmith friends who wanted to see the famous giant woman. Moses helped organize everything with quiet efficiency. The Chens prepared food. Margaret returned from Santa Fe with a birth to her children. Sarah brought her grandmother, the woman who had first told her about Kate. Half of Blackstone attended, not from obligation, from genuine affection. Kate wore white. Rebecca had sewn the dress specially, 15 yards of silk, simple but elegant. She looked radiant, powerful, beautiful. Ben wore his best suit, which was not very good, but it did not matter. He looked at Kate like she was the only person in the world. Owen asked for vows. Ben spoke first. Kate, I promise to see you. Not the sun, not the strength, not the legend, just you. I promise to stand with you in joy and sorrow. I promise to build instead of breaking. And I promise to love you until my last breath. Kate's turn. Her voice was steady despite tears. Ben, I promise to stay. Not hide, not run. I promise to be strong when you need me, strong and vulnerable when you need me, human. I promise to share this life we are building. And I promise to love you in all the ways love can be shown. Owen pronounced them married. The community erupted in celebration. Music played, people danced, food was shared. It was not fancy, but it was full of joy. That night in the room they now shared, Kate said something she had been thinking. Ben, I need to tell you something. About my body, about what the chains did. You do not have to. I want to. I need you to understand. Kate sat on the edge of the bed, which had been specially built to support her weight. The scars healed. You saw that. But there is something else. For 2 years, I could not close my legs completely without pain. The muscle damage, the scar tissue it made, certain movements hurt. That is why I needed you to touch me that first night. I needed to know if I could move normally, if I needed to fight. Ben listened, not interrupting. But in the past months, working the ranch building, things using my body for something other than survival, the pain has lessened. The muscles have strengthened. And last week I realized something. I could close my legs, fully, without pain, for the first time in 2 years. She looked at him. I can be whole again, not just in spirit, in body. And I wanted you to know that. Wanted you to understand that you helped heal me in ways that go beyond words. Ben took her hand. You healed yourself. I just stood beside you while you did it. You did more than stand. You saw me when I was invisible. You stayed when everyone else left. You believed I was human when I had stopped believing it myself. They lay together that night, close, intimate, in the way of people who have earned each other's trust through shared pain. And for the first time in 2 years, Kate felt completely whole. The months that followed brought a quiet happiness neither had expected. The ranch continued to grow. More people came, more outcasts finding refuge. By December, they had 20 people living on the property, a small village of those who had nowhere else to go. Ben worried about resources, about whether they could sustain so many. But Kate had a vision. We are not a charity, she said one evening. We are a community. Everyone works. Everyone contributes. We share what we have and build what we need. That is how we survive. She organized it with precision. The Chens expanded their farming. Moses trained horses that sold in Santa Fe for top prices. Margaret returned again, this time to stay, and opened a school for the children that were appearing. Rebecca moved to the ranch, permanently bringing her dressmaking business with her. It was not a ranch anymore. It was something bigger. A place where people could rebuild lives that had been shattered. Where being different was not a liability, but an asset. In January, Samuel returned with news. He was getting married. To a woman named Elizabeth, a widow with a young daughter. I wanted you to meet them, Samuel said to Ben. Wanted your blessing. The fact that he wanted Ben's approval meant more than Ben could express. Elizabeth was 30, quiet, kind. Her daughter Anna was 4, shy at first, but warming quickly to Kate, who knelt down to her level, which was still quite tall, and talked to her about horses and chickens and all the things that fascinated small children. Can you teach me to be tall, like you? Anna asked innocently. Kate laughed, genuine and warm. You are already perfect the size you are, but I can teach you to be strong. Would you like that? Anna nodded enthusiastically. They stayed a week. In that time, Ben saw his son truly happy for the first time since Margaret's death. Saw him laugh, saw him relax, saw him become the man he was meant to be. On their last night, Samuel pulled Ben aside. Thank you, Samuel said, for finding a reason to live again, for showing me that grief does not have to be the end, that you can lose everything and still build something beautiful. Ben embraced his son. You will always have a place here, all of you. I know, and we will visit often. But Father, Samuel pulled back, I want you to know I forgive you for not being there, for disappearing. I understand now. Sometimes you have to break completely before you can heal. Ben wept. He had waited 5 years to hear those words. Spring came again, 2 years since Ben had arrived. The ranch was thriving beyond anything they had imagined. 70 people now called it home either permanently or temporarily. They had built 6 new houses, expanded the barn 3 times, dug 2 more wells. The territorial government officially recognized them as Morrison Township, named after Thomas. Kate cried when she heard the name. Her husband's legacy would live on, not in death, but in life in the community built on the land he had died protecting. Federal Marshal Cross visited in April, bringing news. Silas Dalton had died in territorial prison. Heart failure. He was 60. His sons Jake and Cole had been released after serving reduced sentences for cooperating with the investigation into their father's crimes. They had left the territory, gone to California, would never return. Is it wrong that I do not feel glad? Kate asked after Cross left. No, Ben said. Revenge is not the same as justice. Justice was served. That is enough. One evening in May, Kate and Ben sat on the porch of the house they had built together. Around them, the township bustled with life. Children playing, adults working, the sound of hammers and laughter and conversation. Did you ever imagine this, Kate asked, when you rode into Blackstone 2 years ago? No, Ben admitted. I was looking for a place to hide, to disappear. And instead you found this. Instead I found you, and you showed me that disappearing is not the same as peace, that healing requires being seen, not hiding. Kate leaned her head against his shoulder. Even sitting, she was taller, but they made it work. I am happy, she said softly. For the first time since Thomas died, I am truly happy. And it does not feel like a betrayal. It feels like honor, like I am living the life he would have wanted me to live. He would be proud, Ben said, of all of this, of you. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over land that had seen so much pain and was now filled with so much hope. Ben, Kate said, there is something I want to do, something I have been thinking about. What? I want to have a gathering, invite everyone from town, from the surrounding ranches, show them what we have built, show them that different people, broken people, can come together and create something beautiful. Ben smiled. A celebration. Yes, a celebration of survival, of second chances, of refusing to let the world make you small. They planned it for June, sent word throughout the county, expected maybe 50 people. 300 came. They arrived in wagons and on horseback, families and individuals, young and old. Some came from curiosity. Some came because they had heard the stories and wanted to see if they were true. Some came because they were broken too and wanted to see if healing was possible. Kate stood on a platform Moses had built, looking at the crowd. 2 years ago, these people would have run from her. Now they looked at her with respect, with hope. She spoke. My name is Catherine Brennan Hawthorne. 2 years ago, I was called a monster, a ghost, a curse. I believed them. I hid from the world because I thought the world did not want me, but I was wrong. The world did not reject me. I rejected myself. She paused, looking around. This place, Morrison Township, is built on a simple idea, that everyone deserves a second chance. That being different is not a crime. That survival is not weakness. Every person here has a story, a pain, a reason they could not fit in elsewhere. And every person here has found that they can fit together. She gestured to the crowd, to the people who had made the township their home. We are farmers and blacksmiths. We are Chinese and white and black. We are tall and short and everything in between. We are widows and orphans. We are people who have been beaten and broken and told we were worthless. And we are here. We are alive. We are thriving. The crowd was silent, listening. I do not tell you this to brag. I tell you this to offer hope. If we can build this, you can build something too. Wherever you are, whatever you have lost, you can choose to keep living, to keep building, to keep loving. She looked at Ben standing beside the platform. I lost my first husband. He was killed for refusing to surrender what was his. For 2 years, I thought his death meant my life was over. But I was wrong. His death gave meaning to dozens of lives. The people here, the families who have found refuge, they live because he refused to give in. His legacy is not death, it is life. Tears streamed down her face. And I found love again. I did not think I could, did not think I deserved it. But love is not about deserving. It is about choosing, about deciding that hope is stronger than fear. The crowd began to clap, slowly at first, then louder, then cheering. Kate stepped down from the platform. Ben embraced her. Around them, the township celebrated. Not just Kate's survival, their own. The gathering lasted 3 days. People camped on the property, shared meals, told stories. Connections were made. Friendships formed. Several families who attended ended up staying, joining the township permanently. On the last night, as the final guest departed, Kate and Ben stood under the cottonwood trees. Thomas's grave was now part of a small cemetery. 3 more graves had been added over the 2 years. Moses's wife, who had died long ago, but whose memory he honored here. A child from one of the families who had come seeking refuge, taken by fever despite their best efforts. An old woman who had arrived with nothing and died in peace, surrounded by people who cared. It is strange, Kate said. This started as a place of death, Thomas's death, my near death, but it has become a place of life. Death and life are not opposites, Ben said. They are partners. One gives meaning to the other. Kate nodded. I used to think surviving was enough, but it is not. Thriving is what matters. Building, creating, loving. She looked at Ben. Thank you for teaching me that. You taught yourself. I just reminded you that you could. They stood together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Behind them, the township settled into evening rhythms. Ahead, the future stretched out, unknown, but no longer frightening. Kate had spent 2 years unable to close her legs without pain. 2 years marked by trauma and fear. But now, standing on land that had become home, surrounded by people who had become family, she felt whole. The scars remained. They always would. But scars are proof of healing, not just wounding. Proof that the body can repair itself, that the spirit can endure. She had been called a giant, a monster, a curse, but she knew the truth now. She was Kate. She was human. She was loved. And she was home. As darkness fell and stars emerged, brilliant and infinite, Ben took her hand. Ready to go inside, he asked. Kate smiled. Yes, let's go home. They walked together toward the house, toward the life they had built from broken pieces. And for the first time in 2 years, Kate's stride was easy, painless, whole. She could close her legs, she could run, she could fight, but more importantly, she could rest. She could love, she could live. And that, she thought, was the greatest victory of all. Years later, when visitors asked about her scars, Kate would simply smile. They taught me that strength is not about size, she would say. It is about choosing to live when everything tells you to die. And her stride across the land, Thomas loved the land Ben helped defend, was always long and sure and free. The giant widow of Blackstone had found her rest, not in death, but in the simple act of living fully.